Welcome to day 7 of our Jesse Tree Advent devotion. We are, during the days of Advent, spending some time in Scripture in the Old Testament, recalling God's work with God's people throughout history until the birth of Jesus on Christmas. And we've visited some familiar stories from the book of Genesis, creation and Adam and Eve and Noah and Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And now today we'll be talking about Joseph. And Joseph takes up quite a bit of space in the at the end of the book of Genesis. Yes, we're still in the book of Genesis. That's where so many of our familiar stories come from. And Joseph is one of the younger sons of Jacob. He is number 11 of 12. He is Jacob's firstborn with his beloved wife Rachel. And this causes some problems because Jacob favors Joseph. And so he's given him a special coat, and we think of that as a striped coat. I mean, I was in Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat in high school, a musical. So we think of it kind of like this. Some scholars will say that it's not a multi-striped fancy thing like this, but rather that it had long sleeves. But that's not nearly as exciting, so we're going to stick with our image of this much fancier coat than anything that his brothers had ever been given by their father. So that in and of itself causes a lot of sibling rivalry with the brothers. And then Joseph has dreams, and he interprets those dreams. In one of the dreams, he interprets where his brothers are bowing down to him, which doesn't sit well. That their little snot-nosed brother thinks that they're going to bow down and worship him. And so one day when they are out with the herds, the brothers devise a plan to kill Joseph and hide the evidence. But their brother Reuben overhears them, and he says, let's not kill him. Let's, we'll throw him in the pit, and but let's not kill him. And I think Reuben planned to go back and rescue Joseph. But in the midst of this, they do throw Joseph into the pit, and then while they're having supper, some traveling Ishmaelites come along on their way to Egypt for trade, and they sell Joseph to these traders as a slave, and then tell their father, Jacob, that he has been mauled by a beast and is dead, which completely devastates Jacob. And in the midst of that, Joseph travels to Egypt, now a slave, and he ends up imprisoned, where his ability to interpret dreams becomes known, and the Pharaoh is having some troubling dreams, and he needs someone to interpret them, and hears about Joseph, and Joseph interprets the Pharaoh's dreams to reflect that there will be 7 years of good harvest in the land, and followed by 7 years of famine, which allows the Pharaoh and the Egyptian people to prepare for the famine that is coming by laying in stores of food. The Pharaoh is so impressed by Joseph that he makes him his second in command of planning and organizing everything in preparation for the famine and then for food distribution. So Joseph's family lives in a land that did not plan ahead for a famine. So things are dire for their family, and Jacob sends the sons to Egypt to get food. They go not knowing that their brother Joseph is their second in command to the Pharaoh. They expect never ever to see him again. And Joseph recognizes them, but they do not recognize Joseph. They're not looking for him. They don't expect to see him there. And many, many years have passed. So he sends them on their way with their food stocks, but plants one of his valuables in the sack of one of his brothers, and then sends his guys after him to say, look, you stole that. And now the brothers have been returned to Egypt and are in audience with Joseph. So this is the 45th chapter. We've probably been going 6 chapters now with the story of Joseph. So from chapter 45, again, I read from the Message version of the Bible. Joseph spoke to his brothers. I am Joseph. Is my father really still alive? But his brothers couldn't say a word. They were speechless. They couldn't believe what they were hearing and seeing. Come closer to me, Joseph said to his brothers. They came closer. I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. But don't feel badly. Don't blame yourselves for selling me. God was behind it. God sent me here ahead of you to save lives. There has been a famine in the land now for 2 years. The famine will continue for 5 more years, neither plowing nor harvesting. God sent me on ahead to pave the way and make sure there was a remnant in the land to save your lives, an amazing act of deliverance. So you see, it wasn't you who sent me here, but God. He set me in place as a father to Pharaoh, put me in charge of his personal affairs, and made me ruler of all Egypt. Hurry back to my father. Tell him your son Joseph says, I am master of all Egypt. Come as fast as you can and join me here. I'll give you a place to live in Goshen where you'll be close to me, you, your children, your grandchildren, your flocks, your herds, and anything else you can think of. I'll take care of you here completely. There are still 5 more years of famine ahead. I'll make sure all your needs are taken care of, you and everyone connected to you. You won't want for a thing. Look at me. You can see for yourselves, and my brother Benjamin can see for himself that it is me, my own mouth, telling you all of this. Tell my father all about the high position I hold in Egypt. Tell him everything you've seen here. But don't take all day. Hurry up and get my father down here. Then Joseph threw himself on his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept on his neck. He then kissed all his brothers and wept over them. And that's our story about Joseph. Whoop, dang it. So we'll put Joseph up here. Really have trouble trying to figure out where the tree is when I'm hanging these up. And that is day 7.